Pharaoh dreamed a dream. And the dream was he saw coming up out of the Nile River was 7 cows that were, fat-fleshed. They were feeding in a meadow, the scripture says. And then, coming out of the Nile River, he saw 7 cows that were ill-fleshed. They were thin. They were scrawny, and they just looked pathetic. But the 7 pathetic, thin cows devoured the 7 fat cows. But then Pharaoh woke up, and he's troubled. And he knows there's something about this dream. But what is it? What's it mean? Well, then the scripture says that he went back to sleep. And this time, he had a dream, and he saw on one stalk 7 ears of corn. Beautiful corn. Fat and pretty. And coming up out of the Nile. And then he saw 7 ears of corn on one stalk that was scrawny and thin, and scripture said like it has been blown by the wind. But then he saw the 7 scrawny ears of corn devoured the 7 fat ears of corn. And then he woke, and he's troubled. And he did what pharaohs and kings would do in days like that. He began to demand of his astrologers and his musicians, soothsayers, and everybody he could think of. Called them all in the middle of the night and demanded that they interpret this dream. But they could not. And things were getting tense there in the palace because they remembered the baker and what happened to him. And then the butler remembered. Well, let's just say he spoke up. And he said to Pharaoh, he said, when I was in the king's prison, there was a young Hebrew, and he was able to interpret the dream of the baker and myself. And his interpretation was exactly right. He said, you restored me back to my position, and you hung the baker. And then Pharaoh said, go get him. Go get him. Bring him to me and have him stand before me. And there was a great confidence there that this young man had the answers. And as I spoke about earlier in the week, they went and got him. And there he stood, a thing that he had thought for many, many, many years that this day would come. Well, it did. It happened. And you see, that's why it's so important in our lives that we prepare ourselves for the reality of our dreams. This is Pastor Jack King with a gospel on the radio broadcast.